Today's broadcast of the Competizione Performance League's GT4 Single Race 6 is brought to you by two sponsors, Malwa Transport and Asio Action Transport Expert. For those of you looking for an oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialist based in Quebec, visit www.malwa-transport.ca. And for those of you looking for an expert and professional trucking insurance firm specializing in property and casualty insurance solutions for freight across Quebec, Canada and the United States, visit www.transportexpert.com. Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the first ever televised event for the Competizione Performance League here at Single Race 6, brought to you live here on TRTN. As always, I'm Regan Clark, and you join us today from what appears to be bright and sunny conditions, as ever, from the historic Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. The crown jewel of Italy's motorsports history, founded in 1922 in between the founding of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in 1921 and the Circuit de la Sarthe in 1923. It was Europe's third ever dedicated racing course after Brooklands in 1907 and the world, after Brooklands in 1907 and Indianapolis in 1909, but it was mainland Europe's first. It has been defined over 103 years of operation by a track fanatical in its obsession with all things straight line speed. It's our first time commentating for the Competizione Performance League, as mentioned, and we were brought on to this after chats with two of today's sponsors, as always, Malwa Transport and our new sponsor, Asio Action Transport Expert. Today's broadcast, I'm told as well, if we take a look around in the grid, was brought to you as a gift to one of the drivers celebrating their birthday today. And if we can find them, exiting the pits here amongst a swarm of Chevrolet Camaros is one such driver in particular. Brought as a gift then to the number 69 Chevrolet of Timothy Jolicoeur, who keen-eyed viewers may have already recognized from his participation over on NLRL. And he's not the only one. While the league may be new to us, plenty of its drivers are already on our radar and have been on our radar for some time. So as free practice kicks off then, let's get acquainted with this brand new grid of talent. Hailing predominantly from North America, there are a few exemptions to this rule, and we'll have a look around the grid to see who we're dealing with today. Starting things off then is the birthday boy himself in the Chevrolet number 69, Timothy Jolicoeur, who we're plenty of seeing before through NLRL, through the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship, and also over on the Sunday League. He'll be competing in the number 69 Camaro as always, adorning the colours of Malwa Racing Team's black, grey and red. And also see John Prine making his way out of the pits at the moment, another familiar face from the world of NLRL and from the Malwa Racing Team. He's in the number 22 Camaro, and you'll start to notice a pattern here. Two of the most predominant manufacturers on this grid, AMG and Chevrolet. We'll talk about the cars a little later on. 16 minutes left to go then in free practice before we're on to a 20-minute qualifying session and an hour-long race today. More to touch on that in a moment. Next on our field of view then, in the number 301, is Axel Cassier, who we saw at the very start of Season 2 of the NLRL Sunday League. He has now made himself a present name in the world of console sim racing here on TRTN. Absolutely ruthless and efficient as always. He's in the number 301 Camaro. Then looking is a very, very unique sight indeed. Rare is it we get to cover GT4 in its entirety. Rarer still do we get to see an Alpine. This is the number 5 Alpine of Richard Cecil from the United States. And it is a very bizarre little car. We'll touch on this just now. With that Alpine, of course, reintroduced to the public eye in 2017 as the Renault Group's answer to rising demand for small, lightweight sports cars, following on trends set in the 2010s by Porsche, Audi, Fiat Abarth and BMW in mainland Europe, the A110's crowning achievements came from its forefather, the 1968 to 1975 Alpine A110, which took 1-2-3 finishes at both the 1971 and 1973 Monte Carlo rallies, also going on to win the first ever World Rally Championship in 1973. Alpine as a team also went on to win Le Mans in 1978. This car then represents the still beating heart of a legacy nearly some 50 years back for Alpine. And right now in the modern day is the culmination of the combined minds at both Renault and Nissan, featuring a 1.8-litre Renault-Nissan inline-4 producing anywhere from 350 to 400 horsepower, mounted on a 6-speed sequential gearbox and weighing in at a titular 1,089 kilos. We'll hope to see plenty more of what Cecil can do then behind the wheel of the number 5 Alpine. Getting a look then further into the grid is one of our Ginettas here, and this is Clement Quentin-Loltram in the number 511 Ginetta G55, produced in Leeds, West Yorkshire. What a mighty machine it is. 3.7 litre Ford Cyclone V6, a monstrous sound and incredibly lightweight. And on the discussion of balance of performance later on today, looks to be one of our greater beneficiaries here in Monza. Having a look further around the grid, then we have Clinton Bourne from Australia competing in the Porsche 718 Cayman RS. He's one of two drivers to do so, the other being Byron Forrest. Number 6 then just making his way down through Lesmo 2. Also see here from the pit lane, Anthony Villorio, who's took a win before in the Competizione Performance League. He's in the number 41 McLaren 570S and the only driver to have entered with McLaren here in GT4 for single race number 6. And that is a mighty bright yellowish green colour there on the 41 as he makes his way out of the pits, just passing there Alex Albert in the number 36. Right now, leading the timing charts with about 13, just under 14 minutes left to go. The number 706, as it appears there. But as you can see there along the side of the car, so weirdly two numbers. The number 58 on the side, but the number 706 over the rear. We'll take the 58 as an indication of who we're dealing with here. And that's one of the new drivers to have joined for single round 6. And that's Timo de Tosto from the United States and the number 58 AMG. That is going to be a bit of a bizarre one here with no name tags this time around with the 706 adorning front and rear. Now, there is a driver, I believe, sporting a very similar number. And here he is, as a matter of fact, another AMG, Kevin Quain, not the 706, but the 607. He's one of, looking on our charts here, one of 7 Mercedes AMGs to have entered this round. So beating out Chevrolet for the punch of the most popular manufacturer on this grid. You can see another AMG up the field there, number 616, Andrew Veldkamp, who we'll touch on in a moment. Having a look around here, Stay High, one of the newest sign-ups from Germany, 107, making his way through Lesmo 2. And looking over here, another one of our AMGs and a new driver on our radar, Gabriel Gaudreau, the number 3. Right behind him there, Richard Cecil, and right in front of him is a very familiar sight indeed. We'll touch on that in a moment's time. This is one such driver we were going to catch up with, the number 616 of Andrew Veldkamp from the United States of America. Also on his way through the Lesmo. Seemed to be a very common area we catch these drivers up in here on our charts, but the number 616 is one of several AMGs, and you can see there sporting the man filter livery. What a beautiful, beautiful colour scheme. We've seen that before in both GT3 and GT4, most predominantly in my mind. Oh, as you can see in the background there, a bit of trouble for, I believe that was Clinton Bourne, the number 6 there, going in at the wall between the Lesmos. But the one livery that this I find most commonly associated with this is Raffaele Marciello in GT3, sporting these kind of colours. What a machine this is indeed, the AMG. Of course, assembled by AMG in Sindelfingen, Germany in 2017, featuring a 4-litre M178 twin-turbo V8 engine, making 430 brake horsepower. Its export version, the M177, was delivered to Aston Martin Lagonda for the 2018 to 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. And while peculiarly as well, its GT3, the bigger brother here of the GT4, does not feature the 4-litre M178, instead featuring the older SLS 6.3-litre twin-turbo, actually naturally aspirated, V8 engine. The twin-turbo V8 that you find in this one did make its way into Aston Martin's GT3, as it was an uprated version of the 4-litre they were given by AMG oh so many years ago. So having a look around the field, here is a very familiar face and a very familiar number. Hailing from South Africa is Tyler Vermaak. The scourge of the solo multi-class endurance championship then ditches the Lexus in trade of the AMG here in this GT4 only round. And what a mighty livery it is indeed. Still on his sporting foray with the Mauer Racing Team, the 835 is looking particularly strong in qualifying predictions today. We'll touch more on that as we head into quali. Having a look around the field, another one of the new drivers on our radar here and competing from Chevrolet, Alex Albert, the number 36. And Chevrolet, almost as popular as AMG here, and you'll find out for good reason that they are likely to have a little bit better of an outing here in the bright sunny conditions in Monza, especially when you bring up the discussion of balance of performance. Carl Martel, another driver that we're familiar with before, now sports the 99 Chevrolet on his way down towards Curva Parabolica. We see the 119 then. The man himself, the Season 1 champion of the NLRL Sunday League, and what seems to be a absolute demon here in the Competizione Performance League, taking a look at those win records, is Christian Lebay. The number 119 has an 80% win rate in GT4, only losing out once in Suzuka at single race 4 to Giovanni Badiali in the number 998. He's also picked up half of all available GT3 wins, making him the man to be for today's round of the GT4 single races. It is very weird to pick up on these as individual chapters. I'm so used in my time as a commentator to covering larger championships, but more to discuss on that next week. We'll not speak too soon on the proceedings of such. You can see here, back on board with the birthday boy himself, number 69, Timothy Jolicoeur. And it is an absolute rip-roaring crowd of Chevrolets here on our way through the Curva Grande, and to discuss about that Chevrolet. Now, a lot of these GT4s, as we know them, the most recent regulations have appeared in and around 2017. Now, of course, there are still some newer cars that we don't get to play with here in Assetto Corsa Competizione that were introduced even later. That would be your 7th generation Ford Mustang, your Toyota GR Supra, your Lotus Emira, and your McLaren Artura, to name a few. But and also your Vantage Evo. But this Chevrolet was also introduced, much like plenty of its contemporaries on this grid, in 2017. The 6th generation Chevrolet Camaro was then taken under the wing of legendary American engineering firm Pratt Miller Engineering, the same boffins behind the legendary Corvette C6R, C7R, and C8R endurance racers. And they had to work around an interesting set of regulations. Now, don't let that face fool you. That's not a ZL1 under the bonnet, as SRO and FIA regulations prohibit the use of superchargers in GT4. So the people at Pratt Miller had to get creative, and where they ended up going was ditching the LT4 6.2-litre supercharged V8 engine in the Camaro ZL1, of which this bears striking resemblance to, and opted to downtune to the LT1 engine, the naturally aspirated version, from the Camaro SS. This did not stop them, however, in producing a whopping 480 brake horsepower from that 6.2-litre, the largest engine then on this GT4 grid, and one of its most striking signature American rumble here in Italy. And it's going to be David versus Goliath here, Goliath being your Chevrolets, and then if you have a look around, several of David's, because we have the Alpine and also that little Ginetta of Quentin Laltram in the 511. We're on board once again with Richard Cecil as he makes his way down towards Della Rosia. As a matter of fact, we're going to try and catch on board with the driver about to do a flying lap around this track with 7 minutes left to go. Then whilst we wait for that as they head through the Variante Ascari, let's just get a quick indication as to what we're dealing with in today's event regs. Now, it's free practice for 20 minutes. It deceptively says 10 minutes there. Qualifying for 20 minutes and a race for 60 minutes. One mandatory pit stop with fuel and tyres on that mandate. So that is going to make for a bit of a strategy-intensive round here at the Temple of Speed as we stay on board then with the Ginetta number 511 of Clement Quentin Laltram. Let's start then our comprehensive tour in the final couple of minutes of free practice of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Or not, as heading into the wall there was Quentin Laltram after serious oversteer problems on that little Ginetta. So let's get on board then with the driver just making their way past the start-finish line. If we can hear the number 36 of Alex Albert then, who will take us on a tour down towards turn 1 and 2. Then the Variante Rettifilo, what is renowned as the graveyard of plenty of good races across multiple different categories. It is possibly the most feared corner in the history of motorsports. Turns 1 and 2 there through the Variante del Rettifilo. Then to turn 3 at Curva Grande. Then down towards the Variante della Rosia. Second of our three chicanes here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. A little bit wider than expected for Albert, but he's kept it in the clear and narrow on his way down towards Curva di Lesmo. Turns 6 and 7, sometimes also called Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Making his way then through Lesmo 1 then gives rise to Lesmo 2, and it's a deceptively tricky section of the track. Now, despite what it would look like on the map there, that's a very, very sharp right-hand, and then taking us to the Curva del Seraglio on our way to turns 8, 9, and 10. Now, I've seen this rattle plenty of drivers, experienced and inexperienced alike, so this is going to be an area almost equally feared as Rettifilo, and that's the Variante Ascari. Those curbs either side of it can massively tip the balance here on these titular GT4s. And you see taking quite a hefty chunk of curb with him was Alex Albert on the exit of turn 10 of Varianti Ascari. Now on our way down towards turn 11, the Curva Parabolica, parabolic open hairpin right. That'll take us to the checkered line here towards the final minutes of free practice. So with great pleasure there from Alex Albert, many thanks for that comprehensive tour of this mighty circuit. The world's third ever dedicated racing course, mainland Europe's first, continental Europe's second after Brooklands. Heading to the line then goes Albert. Last lap there, 1:58.747 by Albert as he heads back into the pit lane. Getting back on board then with some of our other drivers on the field. Let's see if we can find a few that are in and amongst a bunch here. We've got Timo de Tosto, one of the newest sign-ups here on SimGrid, in the number 58, deceptively saying the number 706 over the nose of this strikingly pretty AMG. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the liveries are. I don't keep up to date with the GT4s all too often. Don't get very good coverage here in the United Kingdom, but it is a very pretty appearance there on that AMG. And you can see backing him up, two of the nicest liveries on this grid right now that haven't been user-generated, I should say, to no discredit of the Malmar Racing team. Well, those two AMGs, Veldkamp and De Tosto. Two American talents then for AMG. Across the line goes De Tosto, but not to an improvement. In fact, a stark and shocking detriment to his previous time. His best time, a 1:57.550. Now, that's definitely going to put him in solid stead for a front row start come qualifying. And before we do get on to the discussion of qualifying predictions, we can bring up the balance of performance. Now, getting a gander at that coming into this round, Mercedes are not going to be feeling too much benefit coming into today's race. They're gaining 40 kilos, and that is jaw-droppingly heavy for them coming into a track such as Monza, where they're going to have to carry as much momentum as possible. This is going to be working in some ways with, in some ways against, and it's going to be in more corners than not that they're going to feel more detriment than benefit coming into today's 60-minute long race. Porsche aren't going to be feeling too much benefit either, with 7 kilos added to their already lightweight 718 Cayman, further dropping their deficit and advantage over Alpine and Ginetta. Speaking of those two, they'll be the best of the bunch for 22 and 13 kilos removed respectively. And then slap bang in the middle of things, still in the negatives, but to a negligible change, McLaren and Chevrolet with -4 and -9 kilos. Now, if I were Quentin Laltram and Cecil, I would be grinning ear to ear at this very news here. The best of the balance performance patches for Monza today of the selection of cars on track. Mercedes are definitely going to have to do some double time here. So for drivers such as Timo de Tosto, who lines up right now third fastest, and then getting a look on the rest of our charts for Kevin Quain, who's been a frequent flyer of those podium positions in the last couple of single races here in GT4. Could he be looking to finally usurp Lebey's throne here of what has been 5 races, and 4 of those being total victories? Mercedes, again, going to have to do double time. We can see already one driver who doesn't seem to be too phased by what's been going on is Anthony Villorio in the number 41 McLaren. Now, negligible change really, 4 kilos. You're not going to feel too much of that on a track like Monza. If you were to go over to Imola or Misano, you could maybe make the argument that you could feel more pronounced changes in the way that the weight is shifted around on that car, but no such difference really is going to be felt on the McLaren. But that's not to detract from one of its primary advantages. Similar to Chevrolet, straight line speed is in McLaren's good books in GT4. That 570S is a significant downtune of its road ferry model that has about 568 brake horsepower. This one only making 485, but it's through and through supercar technology that it inherits from its bigger brother, the 720S. Now, this, of course, dates all the way back to McLaren's return to road car manufacture back in the very late 2000s, early 2010s with the MP4 12C, and that quickly made its way into GT3 racing, where it was relatively popular. And while the 570S never got the time in the sun that the 650S, its forefather got, or the 720S, its older, or bigger, I should say, brother got, the 570S is still able to force quite a wedge in the way of things in terms of GT4, and that's a legacy that continues to this day with the Artura, their most recent addition to the GT4 lineup. Having a look around here, further down the order, stay high in 5th. So 3 Mercedes cars inside the top 5. That 40 kilo ballast is I would have really thought it had a bit of a worse effect for Mercedes across the board. We're right at the very end then of free practice today, so we'll be beginning preparations for our 20 minutes of qualifying for single race 6 as we quickly tried to catch here the number 41 across the line. It was Villorio who we were speaking about there, up to third fastest at the very end of free practice. Let's see what he can do then come qualifying. A few more drivers then to the line, among them Timo de Tosto, who just lost that third place out as he crosses the line, is not going to be able to force away. He's back in. Right behind him there, crossing the checkered line, was Andrew Veldkamp in 11th position. Quickly checking in then with the 22 of John Prine. Currently 12th fastest. Last lap was a 2 minutes 105. Fastest was a 1:59.047. A second in between best and previous. He makes his way to turn 11. He'll be the last driver then to make his way to the checkered line here before the start of qualifying. He makes his way out through turn 11, checking the telemetry. Doesn't look to be a story of improvements this time around, but he's still got qualifying to contend with. So, 20 minutes against the chart here in single race 6, and already out the gates early on goes Kevin Crane and Richard Cecil. So out goes Quain. He'll be the first onto the field then to set those flying laps. We'll stay on board with him here as we begin our sort of out lap, our parade lap, as it were, before the utter bedlam that is Monza qualifying. Doesn't matter what category it could be, GT3, GT4, hell, even GT2 or TCX, it's still going to be bedlam at a track like this. The Temple of Speed may as well be called the Temple of Doom to some people. So staying on board then with Kevin Quain as we begin the discussions of qualifying predictions. Now, this is according to data given to us by Simbot through the CPL server, and this was taken just earlier on today before this broadcast went live, and it puts Christian Lebay at pole position with a 1:55.940, Tyler Vermack in second with a 1:56.432, and Kevin Quain on your screens at the moment, third with a 1:56.770. Then looking further behind him, Byron Forrest predicted at fourth in with a 1:57.542. Though I do not believe we're seeing all of the names on this chart here. Asahi Ota, had he entered this round, would have been 5th with a 1:57.840. Alex Albert 6th with a 1:58.405. Andrew Veldkamp 7th, 1:58.422. Timothy Jolicoeur, the birthday boy whom of which this broadcast is bought as a gift for, with a 1:59.094. Carl Martel in 9th, 1:59.137, and John Prine in 10th, a 2:01.830. Now, with a few names exempt from that list, namely because I haven't yet to see them, Byron Forrest or Asahi Ota. That's two positions opened up slap bang in the middle of our qualifying predictions today. So as we cut away from Kevin Quain to quickly check in with Stay High, making his way down through turn 1, back on board then with Kevin Quain. We bring up the telemetry to our left-hand side as we are in the first of our flying laps here, courtesy of the number 607. He was predicted in and around that top 5. Let's see what he can do then with the first of our flying laps. Sadly, the telemetry not giving us an accurate track of what his time's going to be looking like, so we'll just pull that away for the time being. Heading down towards turn 1 and 2 then. And in these cars where momentum conservation is absolutely paramount compared to cars that inherit the track from them as well, like GT3 and even its intended purpose all the way back in its inception, that being Grand Prix races, these GT4s have to nail every single corner, and with no shortage of these very sharp, very slow speed corners, that is going to be the make or break for a lot of flying laps here. Plenty of drivers can take a corner fast and stick to the line. Very few drivers can precisely navigate at lower speeds here and still come out on top. Out through De La Rogia then comes Kevin Quain into the Lesmos. Behind him you can see Richard Cecil hot on his trails there by 6.2 seconds. You see, with GT4s, there's a lot less time to spare now. Our GT3s would have had their first times in and around this mark now, if not a little bit earlier. And we're nearly 5 minutes into the session. We've yet to see a single time on that chart. That just goes to show how important the timings are for these drivers here in GT4. Not a lot of time to work with. Had it been a 30-minute session, that would have been pretty close to what the GT3s get in 20 minutes. Out through Ascari then goes the 607. A little bit wiggly on the start there of Ascari. Now that was out through turn 8 and 9. Out through turn 10, he's definitely clipped his wings a little on his way towards turn 11. What's it going to look like for Kevin Quain as our first flying lap of qualifying today? 16 minutes left to go. Already we can see yellow flags are out for two drivers, the number 3 and the number 301. Gaudreau and checking for the number 301. They've got back going now at the moment, so they're out through the Curva Grande. So, Kevin Quain across the line for our first time of today, a 158.385. Then checking in with Richard Cecil, half a second off. Right behind them there, you can see one of the Chevrolets. Christian Lebay usurps both of them for a 156.557. Number 41, that was Anthony Velorio across the line, and Timothy Jolicoeur joins him for a second and fourth. Then to the line, the number 616 of Andrew Veldkamp. Behind him, you can see there the number 301 from... unless you know, that's not the number 301, sorry. That is the... do forgive me there. That is the number 58 of Di Tosto, who goes second fastest there. Still getting used to not having the name tags over the cars this time around. Number 22 across the line. And that was John Prine down to 8th. Number 36 across the line next. That would be Alex Albert from 11th. Crosses the line and doesn't appear to have set a valid time there, rather reluctantly so, for the Chevrolet. So, number 511, Quentin Laltram, the titular Ginetta, on his way to the line then. What can he do against uncertain odds as these? The odds are stacked against him here. That Ginetta tops out very, very quickly. Much shorter gear ratios than its contemporaries on this grid. And that is definitely going to play into the wrong hands coming over the course of this round. You'll have a fantastic start, but that's just about the tip of it. And 9th for the moment, 5.9 seconds off of pole. 301 then next to the line, and it's Axel Cassier, who we were thinking of earlier, that had that yellow flag alongside Gabriel Gaudreau. Cassier across the line, but does not set a valid flying lap, but one driver who does was just up the field from them at the moment, the 511. We just saw that as well. You also see the shift in positions there. Velorio now third, and Stay High was the driver we were thinking of, now going fourth fastest in the 107. Puts himself ahead of Kevin Quain, who's at the back of the top 5. Can he fight back up into the top 4? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, takes it to the front row on that last lap just gone, up to second fastest by just under 0.6 of a second. And Christian Lebay opens the gap up massively from Quain there, up to 0.8. Velorio to third ahead of Di Tosto. Next is the 616 the line, Andrew Veldkamp in the AMG. Then it will be Di Tosto. What can Veldkamp do from 9th position? Crosses the line then to 5th. Di Tosto to the line then next from him. Number 58, can he re-inherit 3rd? Not this time around from Velorio. So I must say, despite the predictions that Mercedes would struggle over the course of the rounds today, they're really not showing much signs of it. Alpine at the moment, the singular Alpine, Richard Cecil, inside that top 10, but clinging to a tide of AMGs in front of them from 4th to 6th there. He's in 7th, Jolicoeur behind him in 8th, and then we've just seen it as well, Clinton Bourne up into the top 10. One of the only entries to come out of Oceania from Australia, the number 6 Porsche. He's in 9th and ahead of Karl Martel. Number 511 is next to the line. Let's catch on board then with Quentin Laltram. Clement to the line. What can he do in that Ginetta? Now he has a ways off, but can he fight his way back up? Yes, there is an improvement. So he keeps that kind of momentum, and we could see him up a few positions. We could see this driver up a few positions in a few seconds' time. Axel Cassier to the line then for his first valid flying lap. The Belgian talent crosses the line from 16th up to 4th. And only just over a second there, and only a few hundredths between himself and a 3rd place start. That's from Anthony Velorio's number 41. Checking with the next wave of drivers coming in. Among them is Kevin Quain. In front of him is Clinton Bourne in the number 6. Bourne in 11th. Quain in 2nd. Where do things drop here over the course of this next lap? Neither of them finding too much in the way of it there. Bourne in 9th now. And Quain remains in 2nd. Number 41 then, Anthony Velorio to the line. Crosses it from 3rd there, maintains his gap from Cassier. Number 69 across the line, that was Timothy Jolicoeur, remains in 11th position for the time being. Number 58 next to the line as well, that's Timo Di Tosto. from the United States in the AMG across the line from 5th, goes up to 3rd. So a frequent challenger of that top 3. You've got to hand it to De Tosto here. He is not going down without a fight. We're barely halfway into the session today, and he is a constant challenger for those top 3 positions. He's looking to make this a Mercedes 2-3, and he'll even be trying his luck here to inherit 2nd place off of the likes of Kevin Quain. Now, that is not an easy crowd to follow. Kevin Quain, a very, very frequent front row starter here in the Competizione Performance League. So De Tosto has quite the set of boots to fill here in single race 6. The 119 then, our current pole sitter, Christian Lebay, to the line. Can he extend that margin up from 8/10 to Quain as he crosses the line? Then we've seen these already world record capable in that Camaro. In fact, some of the data he was sending over to us the night before this race indicated he is under balance of performance the fastest globally in that Camaro. So hats off to him. What we are seeing here is unparalleled performance from the 119. We've seen what he can do already in other leagues in that Camaro. Let's make no mistake of it here. He's not exactly shown any signs of lifting off or slowing down here in the face of different competition. He's just as ruthless as he's been before. And that could definitely spell quite a bad sight for a few of these drivers. They'll be having a very good look at the back of the 119 for the majority of this race, should we be led to believe otherwise. So the number 6 is next to the line. That's Clinton Bourne, currently 10th. Crosses the line there, not to an improvement. Cecil behind him in the Alpine in 8th. Was in 7th before. Crosses the line, so sadly does not find the 2 tenths necessary to get up on Andrew Velkamp's 616 Mercedes. Number 69 next to the line, Timothy Jolicoeur in the Camaro in 11th. Can he break his way into the top 10? Not this time around. Number 58 next on his way to the line, Timo De Tosto, the challenger of the day. So it seems, makes his way into the pit lane. Number 22 then is next to the line. That's John Prine with Chevrolet. The number 36 of Alex Albert in 12th ahead of him on the charts is actually behind him on track. Prine comes into the pits. What does Albert plan on doing as he slowed down seemingly there before Parabolica? He's got a little bit of damage over the nose of the 36 and he's actually going to stay out with said damage just past the halfway mark here, but actually slows it down. So something clearly more wrong than we were led to believe initially there. Definitely did look quite confident for the start. Slowed himself down here out of turn 11, which we now see Christian Lebay exiting. And again, next lap coming. Can he extend the margin from 8/10 of a second to Kevin Quain in the 607 Mercedes? Not this time around once more. So I think we're starting to see the upper limit in these conditions of what these cars are capable of. And I would be gladly delighted to be proven wrong. 511 and the 301 next to the line. We quickly see here as Axel Cassier slams across the line to 2nd fastest. So from 8/10 drops to half a second. Cassier the first to break the line here in the Chevrolet, making a Chevrolet 1-2, a Mercedes 3 and 4. 2 manufacturers on 2-row lockouts here. That's interrupted by the sight of the 41 of Anthony Villorio, just making his way out of the pits there alongside, just passing him up, one of the Mercedes cars. Number 607 of Kevin Quain, who himself is not going to be particularly happy to see another car has found his way in front of him, that being Cassier. This could rear up to be a very exciting round here, the Competizione Performance League's GT4 single races. And if this is the prelude for things yet to come between ourselves and CPL, I do thoroughly look forward to seeing where it goes, because these GT4s are rough and ready to go. 7.5 minutes then left to go in this session today. Checking in with the next driver down towards the line here. Nearest to the checkered line on their flying lap is Christian Lebay. 1:56.295 to beat, is his own personal best and currently the session's fastest. He's half a second ahead of Cassier, fellow Chevrolet, on that front row. And right now has Mercedes pitched for nearly a second. That being either Quain or De Tosto. Checking then with Lebay. Out through turn 11 we go. Curva Parabolica then giving rise with 7 minutes just under left to go in today's qualifying session. We see, has the intensity gained in any some amount? Not this time around for Lebay. You can see he's definitely throwing a lot more into these performances now that he's seeing the gap start to dwindle, especially from that most recent time from Cassier. Number 99 is next to the line at the moment, Karl Martel with Chevrolet. See, he's peeling into the pit lane, so Martel into the pits, the 107 behind him, Stay High, one of the newest sign-ups from Germany. Takes his mark of the checkered line there. 1.4 seconds off of pole position. He's only 4/10 of a second from a top 5 start from Anthony Villorio's 41 McLaren. So he's definitely got the opportunity here to make his way into a top 5 start today, but it is not going to be a battle easily won. 6 minutes then decides our positions on track. Right now it seems all but secure for the current pole position sitter, that being Christian Lebay in the 119 Chevrolet. Cassier could be challenged for second. Now, I would not rule out Quain or De Tosto in this fight for a front row start. I see it though as a little bit too secure right now for Lebay to be challenged too significantly. I would gladly like to be disproven on that, but the performance he's shown today is second to none. So checking in with the 301, Axel Cassier is on his way down towards the Varianti Ascari. Turns 8, 9, and 10. You can see that the Chevrolets, yes, they're some of the bigger boys in this grid, but they are not easily they are not easily planted. They are quite unstable through Ascari. You would have expected for the larger front engine cars very, very little in the way of upset for balance over through that section of the track. We've seen it before in GT3 with the likes of Ford's offerings in the Ford Performance Mustang, and we've also seen it out of AMG, Aston Martin, and also from every now and again from Lexus and Bentley. But down in GT4, since these are a lot closer to the road cars you see rolling out of the dealership, they are much, much easier to upset for balance. That's going to play quite heavy into the minds of our drivers today. But then again, these folks have done 4, actually made that 5 races here in these GT4s alongside one another over the course of the last couple of weeks. I don't think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back here. 4.5 minutes left to go. Cassier starts his flying laps. The 107 next to the line then, Stay High, makes his way into the pits. See the 58's on his way down to the line though. One of the other Mercedes, Timo De Tosto, on his way to the line. From 4th. Can't find his way at the moment any higher than that, but he's still got 4 minutes to prove us wrong. Number 6 next to the line at the moment. That's Clinton Bourne. Down to the line he goes from 10th position. 2.4 seconds off of pole, 3/10 off of 9th place. That's from Karl Martel's Chevrolet. See here, Lebay taking his last stint run, really, as it would be. About, I'd say roughly, 2 laps there before the end of this session. He's on his final 2 runs of today's qualifying. 3 minutes left to go then, as he starts his last of his flying laps. The 36 trailing on from him there, not too far away at all. That's Alex Albert, fellow Chevrolet there. Chevrolet at the front and back rows of the top 10. That is a remarkable little feat there from the boys over in Lansing, Michigan. See the number 3 down to the line. That's Gabriel Gaudreau with Mercedes. 3 minutes left to go then. Amongst the final laps of today's qualifying, Gaudreau crosses the line to start his last of his flying laps. The number 301 on his trails there. Axel Cassier by half a second to pole position. It's make or break time now for Cassier. His first opportunity to really come along and challenge for pole position in the 301. It's not going to be an easy crowd to defeat here, though. One such driver gunning for the position he currently covets is Kevin Quain and the 607. Frequent flyer of the podium. This is no different. He's still in 3rd. But he wants a look at that second row. He had it before. There's nothing to say that he can't have it again. So down towards the line goes Kevin Quain, the 607. He's got to make 3/10 of a second on Cassier's time. If he wants second, he's got to make 8/10 if he wants pole position. The 41 and the 22 to the line. Villorio and Prine. Villorio across the line there remains in 5th. Prine remains in 13th. Number 6 to the line. We saw earlier on Clinton Bourne with Porsche. Can he find his way into the top 10? Now, he was hanging around in 9th a couple minutes ago as he makes his way to the line. He's up to 8th. Up and ahead of Richard Cecil and Karl Martel. Relegates Alex Albert to outside the top 10. Lebay then down to the line from the Curva Parabolica. Is it an improvement? Yes, by 1/10 of a second there. 156, 185 by Lebay. The 36 next to the line goes
Alex Albert not to break back into the top 10 though, sadly. The 616, could he have a gander here of extra positions on high? And Vilorio in the top 5. Goes Andrew Veldkamp, not this time around. One more lap to do so. The number 5 on his way to the line, Richard Cecil in the titular Alpine A110. What can he do then? He's been knocked down another position. He faces potential relegation of the top 10. What could Richard Cecil do in the last couple of laps of today's session? Only a 10th between himself and the Porsche, who just took 8th off of him. Number 3 to the line, Gaudreau. And 301 behind him, that being Cassier. Now has to make 6/10 of a second. So the odds ever stacked against the Belgian. As we see here, across the line goes Gaudreau. Now Cassier doesn't find the improvement, sadly, on this lap. But he has one last shot. All or nothing now for the 301. If he means to even attempt a stage here of pole position today. Number 41 next to the line. Anthony Vilorio has a bit of a rocky run on the exit of Ascari. That could definitely spell doom to his chances here of usurping Timo de Tosto's top 4 time. And that means he'll start in the 3rd row with Stay High in the 107. Down to the line then goes Vilorio at the very, very end here of qualifying today. Next to the line will be the number 6 of Clinton Bourne. So Vilorio throws the towel in. That's the best it's going to get for him at the moment. 5th at the moment. We'll see where that lands at the end of this session. Here comes Clinton Bourne. Now, it was a story of upward momentum in the last couple of laps here. He's found his way back into the top 10. Could he have a scratch here at 7th or perhaps even 6th position? Only a few tenths between himself and that mark of the 616 of Andrew Veldkamp. Goes Clinton Bourne to the line. Sadly, no improvement this time around the 119 on his way to the line. Back into the pits he goes. 4 more times left to go, actually, as a matter of fact. One of which, the number 36. Here comes Alex Albert at the very, very end here of qualifying in single round 6. Across the line he goes. Still 2.3 seconds off the mark, just outside of the top 10. Here comes Andrew Veldkamp. Can he get High and Vilorio for the top 5? Not this time around. 7th for him at the very end of this session. Here comes Richard Cecil then. The solitary Alpine. On his way to the line, 1.8 litres is up against the marks here, but he brings it into the pits. And that's the end of his qualifying endeavours. One more time then left to see. Is it make or break for Axel Cassier in the 301? He's the only one left to challenge the leading time of a 156.185. He makes his way out of the Curva Parabolica. Could it be the end of the line? Yes, it is for Axel Cassier. Christian Lebay then on pole position, a full grid rundown in a moment's time. Yet to have set a time in this session. Now, this is definitely quite a bizarre one. Tyler Vermack in the 835. We would have expected him up towards that front row, but he didn't set a time today. And for currently reasons we do not know. You can see he's in the chat at the moment there. So if you're able to explain to us why we didn't get to see you during quali, we'd be happy to know, but we'll get a full grid rundown in a moment's time. The only bit of news to report today then, at the end of qualifying, sadly we can't get it up on our overhead bulletin this time around. We had to set things up rather quickly for this impromptu round. And the one bit of news we have today comes from the world of the British Touring Car Championships. And that was, of course, last week we reported on the tragic accident at the Power Maxed Racing headquarters, a industrial fire that sadly claimed their facility and their racing team headquarters all in one, effectively knocking them out of competition. Now, fortunately for them, Unlimited Motorsports, another one of the privateers or independents, depending on who you ask, and the Patterson family, those of which the estate of Dexter Patterson, one of the drivers for Unlimited Motorsports, have kindly donated 2 Cupra Leons to Power Maxed Racing so that they can continue to compete in this weekend's Knockhill rounds. So the British Touring Car Championship still further exemplifying what is undoubtedly one of the best stories of sportsmanship in recent times here in the world of motorsports. Honour amongst competitors on that grid. Fantastic news to hear that they'll still be in competition for the time being. So then we'll get a rundown of the grid in a moment's time here for single race 6 here from Monza. And now a lot of eyes going to be on that top 4. Mercedes and Chevrolet, the 2 most dominant manufacturers on this field right now, and the 2 most plentiful. 6 Chevys, 7 Mercedes. So we are not in shortage here of Mercs on the grid. I actually think it's 6 here with the absence of, I believe Asahi Ota was meant to compete with AMG. sadly has not made his way into today's round of the championship. No less, still have 16 drivers here to compete for single race 6. An hour on the mark here with one mandated pit stop, fuel and tyres part of that regulation. So expect longer and more planned out pit stops here. This isn't a run and done situation that we've seen in some other leagues before. This is going to require a little bit of a thinking cap, as it were. What a time, though, by Christian Lebay. Really, you've got to hand it to him there. An utterly dominant qualifying performance. 156.185. Cassier was over half a second away at the end of all of that. It was dominant by the 119. And again, referring back to those previous wins over the course of the last couple of single races, it is still an 80% chance that Christian Lebay comes out on top in this round of the championship. Or not even necessarily a championship, but in this round of these single races, not counting towards a larger championship. If it were, I'd say it's a pretty run and done affair. You know, think 2020 Formula One in that regards. Christian Lebay then starts from pole position. Axel Cassier in second with Kevin Quain in third, and new signing Timo de Tosto in fourth position ahead of Anthony Villorio, who rounds out the top 5. New signing Stay High in the 107, makes sixth position ahead of Andrew Veldkamp. Clinton Bourne in 8th. Richard Seesaw with the solitary Alpine of this grid, almost slap bang in the middle there in 9th position, rounding out the top 10. Carl Martel in the number 99 Chevrolet. Then it's Chevys all the way down to 14th. Then with Alex Albert 11th, Timothy Jolicoeur celebrating his birthday today in 12th, and John Prine in 13th. Gabriel Gorjoy with Mercedes in the number 3 starts 14th, and Clement Quentin Lodtram in the number 511 Ginetta starts second from last. At the back of that field then, Tyler Vermack in the 835. Now, keen-eyed viewers will know Tyler Vermack starting from the back of a field is not the worst thing. We saw, actually, as a matter of fact, to bring up such specific examples as the Valencia round, the first of 2 Valencia rounds of the VSR Phoenix Season 8 Championship, in which he was knocked to the side of the track, spun out from the front row, and had to fight his way from the back all the way up to the top 5. And that was quite a ferocious performance. Make no mistake of it. Him starting from the back does not count him out of a good result in today's race. With about a minute left to go, we'll leave you with the front of the grid, and we'll be back in just a moment's time.
Seconds.
So the 20-second warning and 30-second warning, 10 seconds before that was shown. And that indicates the drivers to start their engines and get ready for the formation lap. So we're on board then with the pole sitter, Christian Lebay in the 119. As we begin our slow crawl then to the Varianti Rettifilo. A full formation lap then here of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. We're excited to announce as well the talks have already began for our continued work with CPL, the Competizione Performance League, in their upcoming weekly GT4 races, which will be brought to you at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's about 1 a.m. here in the United Kingdom where we're recording from. That doesn't matter to us. We'd be here for such an event here. Very rare is it we get to cover GT4s, and it's always a pleasure to be involved. So down towards Rettifilo we go then at the start of today's formation lap. Riding on the precipice of what is going to be an exceptionally exciting single race today here. Single race number 6. We can see that top 3 at the moment. All Malwa Racing Team cars there. Lebay, Cassier and Quain. Then the first of our independents start from 4th backwards. Timo de Tosto, I must say, has had quite the debut here. Now, this is the first we've seen of him, and I also saw that in this race he was a very late sign-up. Actually signed up this morning in the number 58, and he's already shown right off the bat what he's capable of. That 1:58 has been remarkable over the course of quali today. And the first of our independents then, besides the Malwar race team. You also see it's all the way down from 4th, where all of our independents lie then. Vilorio, High and Veldkamp among them. One driver I'm going to keep a very close eye on, actually quite a few drivers I'm going to keep a close eye on, if we can find them here, are going to be some of the sort of titular cars, the smaller Davids among a sea of Goliaths. That would be, you can see here, 8th and 9th, Clinton Bourne and Richard Cecil, the Porsche and the Alpine, and also towards the back of that grid, Clement Quentin Laltram, and the number 511 Ginetta. We could also see as well, he'll be given quite rigorous company by Tyler Vermack, who is going to be, from the word go, on the warpath for a solid result today. Timo de Tosto has got a very good line of sight here, going down into turn 1. He's got clear line on 3 drivers who are going to look to, for the starting couple of laps here, ideally cooperate with one another. They're all competing under the Malwar Racing team. Now, bear in mind, these don't contribute to any sort of championship at this time, so not a lot of stakes involved in getting elbows out, but of course, all of these drivers do tend to respect one another under the same banner. So let's get back on board then. We can see down through the field as well. To keep note as well, the swarm of Chevrolets towards the back of this field from 10th backwards. Martel, Albert, Jolicoeur and Prine from 10th to 13th. That's going to be quite the stampede for drivers such as Vermack to navigate if they can catch up to them on the opening laps here. Chevrolet, bear in mind, like McLaren, are some of the best for straight line speed in GT4. Make no mistake, those 6.2s are going to make light work of the straights here on this track. So then, as we go rolling down towards the line, 16 cars in all. That'll be 80 either side of it for the start of today's race. You can see here from the perspective of the leading car, the Chevrolet front row of Christian Labey and Axel Cassier. We are but moments away then from the start of single race number 6 here in Competizione Performance League. And so begins what is arguably the most terrifying spectacle of motor racing, as the run from turn 11 to turn 1 here at Monza. The graveyard of great races awaits these drivers, these faithful and discerning few, on their way to turn 1 and 2 here at the Variante Rettifilo. 16 cars in all here as we come 2 abreast toward the line here for single race number 6 here at Monza. Without further ado, as we go rolling 2 in line, we are green and racing here at the Temple of Speed, and what a great start already by the Chevrolets up the front row. One driver who's had an absolute blinder of a start, as a matter of fact, is Anthony Vilorio, who's right alongside as we speak with, if we can catch him here, Timo de Tosto, already up for 4th position. Having a look further back, we can see that Quentin Laltram's been left in the dust here, but is still alongside, believe that's their John Prine, down into the Variante Rettifilo, because I already see there was a little bit of contact there. I think that was Tyler Vermack caught up in the maelstrom and turned around there. So yellow flags already down at turn 1. Plenty of drivers caught up in the midst of that. And that, when you knew that was going to happen at some point, you can see caught up there as well was Gabriel Gaudreau in the number 3. Quentin Laltram as well. You can see turned around, almost turned around there, was, I believe, Jolicoeur and Vermack. So that was quite a hair-raising start indeed here for our drivers today. Let's see if we can get a gander back up at the front row as we continue to try and dissect it. So it was 2 spin-outs in a row. It's a rather bizarre sight indeed. So now we're on board with Kevin Quain. Still backs up the top 3 here. Vilorio now to 4th. De Tosto to now in 5th position. Stay High makes a Mercedes 5, 6 and 7 there, right in the middle from 6th position. Behind him, Andrew Veldkamp now looking to be, excuse me, under siege here from the raging duo here of Cecil and Bourne. We can catch on board here. Richard Cecil up on the inside of Tyler Vermack. Clinton Bourne and Carl Martel in front of him there. It's going to be a bit of a hair-raising run down towards turn 11. Vermack is in his slipstream, so on board with Richard Cecil right now, trying to fend off for 10th position. This is not going to be an easy one for the Alpine as we go heading down toward the Curva Parabolica, turn 11 around the outside. Tyler Vermaak still fighting for that position, and fair play to him. All in that fight for 10th position right now. I'd say feasibly as well, it's still in that fight for 9th, because towing onto the back end of Karl Martel's Chevrolet is Richard Cecil, but I believe his time is nigh here. He's trying to fend off from the Mercedes of Tyler Vermaak. This is brilliant stuff. He'll be to the inside on our way down towards Rettifilo. Later on the brakes goes the Alpine. It's contact between all three of them. Caught out the worst among it was Karl Martel. Unbelievable stuff there on our way down to Rettifilo. It was disastrous. Minor contact pushes him out into Martel, pushes Martel across the track. That was a domino effect from the word go between these two. Still fighting and holding on from 9th, now from 10th position. Vermaak swapping Martel's position. He's now down to 12th. Excuse me just a moment. Oh, a bit of a blocked nose, bit of hay fever today. Horrible conditions for a broadcast day, about 30 degrees here. Stiflingly hot heat. Still watching here with Richard Cecil, no longer in that fight for 9th, but he has got a very clear view of the fight for 7th in front of him. Let's get on board then with the driver to be in that conflict, as we can now see, having swapped positions around. As we check in with our top 5, is Anthony Villorio, now up to 4th and ahead of Timo de Tosto. Meanwhile, it's still the same top 3 as when we started. Lebay, Cassier and Quain. Let's get on board though, if we can, with Tyler Vermaak. He's now up and ahead of Clinton Bourne, has Andrew Veldkamp in his iron sights here on the exit of Ascari. So we're on board with the 835 here, fighting for 7th position on track. You see that the wedge in this crowd has started to form. One driver who has not let go of such dauntless ambition from the race start is Richard Cecil. That Alpine is still clawing around in the back of the top 10. Could even have a stab here against the Porsche for 9th position. So keep an eye on that. Right now, it's the story here towards the back of the top 10 between our two Mercedes cars, 616 versus 835. Down towards the line then at turn 1. Tyler Vermaak versus Andrew Veldkamp. Much later on the brakes, it's contact between the pair of them. Oh my goodness, how many incidents are we going to have down towards turn 1 and 2? I knew it was a cursed section of the track. I didn't think it was this bad. Oh no, another incident here between the pair. That's mighty unfortunate indeed. Still on with Vermaak, but he drops behind Bourne. And Richard Cecil, the biggest benefactor of the bunch, because he's now up, if we can catch with the Alpine, up to 7th. So fair play to him. He's kept his nose down here and now is quite a ways ahead of both a Mercedes and a Porsche. I must say, plucky little underdog car, that Alpine A110. 1.8 litres in the land of giants. Also, one driver to keep a close eye on here is getting closer and closer to his chances of a top 10. As you can see, Vermaak now clashes with Clinton Bourne. Is Clement Quentin Lotron in the number 511 Ginetta. I must say, he's done remarkably well from the race start here. Bear in mind, we're only 6 minutes in to today's race. Still plenty left to go before the end of today's race. And we are already seeing explosive action. Now we're catching on board here with Clinton Bourne. It's contact again. How many times are we going to have this in one day? It's a bloodbath here in Monza. Unbelievable. Clinton Bourne will be beside himself. Moreover, he'll be seeing red in the form of Tyler Vermaak's 835 Mercedes, and duly so. What on earth was that move? This is not looking particularly grand at the back of that top 10, but it's looking rather smooth sailing here above 7th position, as Cecil has definitely avoided the greater majority of what has been, no doubt, been a war on all fronts. It is actually a lot smoother up inside our top 6 here. See, Mercedes is Timo de Tosto and Stay High in the 58 and 107 in 5th and 6th position. Ahead of them, Anthony Villorio, Kevin Quain, Axel Cassier, and still leading the charge, the 119 of Christian Lebay. Let's see if we can catch on board here with a few of the drivers towards the back of the field. Here's Gabriel Gaudreau in 15th position. Clinton Bourne about 1.3 seconds behind him, so there could be that fight for 15th coming up. We're also going to check in here with Tyler Vermack, who has definitely found himself the centre of quite some attention and ire over the course of the last 7 minutes of racing today. It has not been, let's say, particularly a graceful start for the 835 Mercedes. He's definitely made his fair share of enemies on this track. You can see charging up to the back of him, better on the brakes there, is the 511 of Clement Quentin Laltram. And storming behind him there is a sea of Chevrolet Camaros. Among them there, you can see Carl Martel, John Prine, Alex Albert, and Timothy Jolicoeur. Let's actually get on board here with Carl Martel. Looks to be next in sight here for a fight of position. Let's get on board then with Martel. Right now, this is in the fight for the last of those top 10 positions. He's got that Ginetta for breakfast in the straights, but watch as we enter the corners here. The night and day difference in maneuverability. Now, a lot flakier, yes, that Ginetta, but a lot sharper. And you can see just having a bit more of the obtuse line. Martel, yes, is catching up. It is now going to have to try and hold side by side. That's my alarm going off to feed the dogs, which I already did. I don't know if that picked up on the microphone or not. I forgot to say that. Okay, so Carl Martel trying for the outside here, and you got to hand it to the Ginetta when it's a short straight. It is actually quite a punchy little car, but this is where it can all come apart for Quentin Laltram. We've already seen his troubles out through turn 11 during practice and quali. Now with the, not the Mercedes, with the Chevrolet in his rear view mirror, it is going to be a matter of when and not if Carl Martel overtakes him. You can see just... he's topped out already and just soaring past him like he's standing still. Unbelievable. Carl Martel then to the inside. Then right behind him, John Prine now trying to challenge the 511. Right behind him, Alex Albert. And there you can see just hanging on to the back of that pack, Timothy Jolicoeur. And then further towards the back of the field, Gabriel Gaudreau as well. Having a look here, Albert and Prine could be looking to swap positions in a moment's time. The two Chevrolets very close to one another, both of which raring to have a go at a position on that Ginetta. But now it's a story of who can get past the other. See Vermack soaring up ahead from 9th position. Currently nothing too much to report here. I think the 41 and the 58 could be getting into arms pretty soon. Di Tosto and Vilorio will be catching up with those two. They're down towards Ascari at the moment. Right now we're on board with John Prine. Number 22, right behind him is the number 36 of Alex Albert. We check in here. No Chevrolets, an omnipresent sight here at Monza, and definitely something that Ginetta doesn't want to see any more of in its rear view mirror. On our way down towards Ascari then. And a bit wide there on entry. See, hanging behind him though, a much more hesitant brake there for Alex Albert. It's actually backed himself up by 0.6 of a second into Timothy Jolicoeur, the number 69. So he's right with him now to form a slowly progressing train here of Chevrolets just outside of that top 10. Speaking of Chevrolets, here's the Chevrolets that mark the front row. Christian Lebay and Axel Cassier, who are slowly peeling away here from Kevin Quain in the 607, Anthony Vilorio and Timo de Tosto that round out that top 5. On board with the underdog then, the number 5 Alpine of Richard Cecil. And I must say, the work up to 7th here has not been an easy one. He's really had to play this like chess, not checkers. And he's managed to find himself in the right place at the right time here, not getting caught up with the bigger cars on the grid, just slinking his way through here, and now, with solid consistency, can hold on to 7th for the time being. You can see the absolute train now of cars backing up onto the 511 of Clement Quentin Laltram and the number 511. Let's catch on board though with the car right at the back of said train. We can catch them here. We just see Gabriel Gaudreau side by side with Clinton Bourne now up in the 15th position. Let's see if we can catch on board though with Timothy Jolicoeur. Looks to potentially get side by side here with John Prine. Backs out of it though in the 69. Going wide goes Alex Albert, and Jolicoeur looks to potentially follow them through. No, as a matter of fact, as I believe, yes, he was the only one who took the line properly. So there may be words. There may be words that he raises there to the stewards. And you can see in the background Gaudreau and Bourne swapping positions on the exit of Della Rosia. Up front, though, Prine and Albert. John Prine with the red nose there, number 22. Albert in the number 36. You can see at the moment, with the red stripes on the bonnet, is Timothy Jolicoeur. This possibly would have been the worst time for me to turn the name tags off the cars here, because these liveries are very close to one another. Same scheme, different design. Having a look here with John Prime, one of the two drivers to have cut then their run into De La Roja. Jumping his way through Ascari. Now, bear in mind, we're just under a quarter of an hour into today's race, and already there has been plenty to discuss. Let's see if we can catch on board, though, with one recent story here. Veldkamp v Vermaak. You see Andrew Veldkamp right alongside here with Tyler Vermaak. 0.4 of a second between the pair of them. Now, Slipstream is going to be on his side here in this fight for 8th position. We saw that Vermaak has already had that off of him. Veldkamp is not going down without a fight, though. Let's stay on board here with a fight of 8th position. Getting a little bit more hesitant on the brakes, hoping that Vermaak runs himself out wide, but he actually nips that in perfectly for turns 1 and 2. And he's actually doubled that gap from 0.4 to 0.8 of a second. Catch up with these two in a moment's time. Vermaak still leading of the two Mercedes there for the fight of 8th position. He's 4.4 seconds away from Richard Cecil's Alpine. You can see here that the fight for first could be shortly kicking off, as this is the closest we've seen Labay and Cassier in quite some time here. We could be looking at the very start of our fight for the lead of today's race. Let's stay on board then with Christian Labay, the current race leader. He's led every single lap of this race so far and led qualifying. Could be in the bookings for a Grand Slam here in single race 6, but this is not going to be a battle easily won because the 301 is not letting go. Right behind him then in the grey 301 is Axel Cassier. Inverted colours between the pair of them actually, so that does make it slightly easier for us to figure out who's who. We can see already the first in of the pits, Gabriel Gaudreau and the number 3 Mercedes. Already in for the first of their pit stops now. That'll be fuel and tyres that he's put on that Merc. And if any indications, we saw the incidents he was involved in earlier at Rettifilo. Could even be some bodywork repair and aero repair on the bookings there. But given that he's already out of the pit lane, I highly doubt it. So down through turns 1 and 2. Currently looking at the fight for first. Let's see if we can get a look here from the perspective of the car in second place. Axel Cassier, the chasing perspective of the two. We've seen that Cassier in GT3 is already a force to be reckoned with, so it is quite a surprise then for our first time seeing him behind the wheel of a GT4 for him to have sort of blended in so perfectly to the role. Now, of course, we're not privy to exactly how long Cassier has been racing GT4s for, but you can definitely say it's been in pretty similar respect to that of his teammate and team boss of the Malwar Racing team, Christian Labay. Because right now, these two are damn near equals as they make their way down the Curva de Saraglio. 0.3 of a second is the equilibrium between the pair. It's stayed at that range for oh so long here. As we make our way to Ascari. Later on the brakes is Cassier, but he has to get harder onto the brakes there to not run into the back of the 119. Labay is playing this tactically here. He knows he can back Cassier up through these corners, and momentum is paramount, especially when you're running two of the same cars. So on their way to turn 11. What is the going rates for Axel Cassier? He's going to have to try for something very ambitious here out through Parabolica. He's got the opening straight to his advantage, being in the slipstream of Labay. Could he have a shot here of overtaking the race leader? He's got a very good chance of it. 0.3 of a second. Both of them having very solid exits there of turn 11. So begins the tumultuous run to turn 1 and 2. And who comes out on top here? Gaining. He was about 2 tenths faster in the last lap. Could Axel Cassier have a look to the inside? Labay covers him off from the middle of the road, so he has to stay behind. Down into turn 1 we go. Very nicely held off then. We do have yellow flags out. It's for the number 36 as we speak there. The number 36 now into the pit lane. We quickly stay on board then with Cassier v Labay. We quickly investigate the number 36. It was Alex Albert, one of the other Chevrolets, now into the pits. That's potentially their race done today in Monza. Back in the green flag conditions then for the time being. Up on 2 wheels goes Christian Labay there through the Variante Rettifilo. That was mighty impressive. Not the last time we're going to see that, but perfectly up on 2 wheels here. We're just watching with them as they enter the Lesmos. That was rather impressive there between the two warring Chevrolets. LeBay still leads. Cassier chasing. Quain 4.6 seconds out. Vilorio fourth. Di Tosto rounds out the top 5. And then High in 6th position. Past that quarter of an hour mark, as a matter of fact, we'll just take a quick look down as well. As we can see, out past P6 into P7 is Richard Cecil. We can see potentially trying his way to the inside there. That was ambitious by Cassier, but he backed out of better intuition. We've already seen side-by-side equal suicide here at the Variante Ascari. Cecil in 7th then. Vermac chasing by a closing margin. You can see how close he is now to that Alpine as we get back on board with Cassier in his fight for first. They'll be fighting down there for 7th position. Alpine versus Mercedes. Then Andrew Veldkamp in 9th. Karl Martel rounds out the top 10. Clement Quentin Laltram has surfed the wave here, much like the other of the smaller cars on the field, that Alpine of Richard Cecil, and has found himself up quite a few positions there. But he is in hot pursuit from Timothy Jolicoeur. That'll be one battle we try and catch up with in a moment's time. We still watch the talk of the day here. Cassier v LeBay. It's so close here, and they're playing it so close to the belt. Who comes out on top as now we head down into Rettifilo, actually scraping the right-hand side of the track for grass. That could have nearly took Cassier out of this fight entirely. It's so fine there between the pair of them, biting your nails through every single corner. Out through the Curva Grande, we can see already trying the wider line. He's going high there. A little bit of NASCAR rules from the two Chevys on their way to De La Rogia. Later on the brakes, no, not this time around for Cassier. So he's trying to fake him out. You can see the proceedings of it here. It's mind games now between the Chevys. He knows by combat alone he can't match LeBay, so he's got to get in his head. That's what he's doing now. You can see he's forcing him to defend on the inside, trying for a switch back at Lesmo. LeBay covers him off. So it's all very tactical between the two Chevys. Back on the discussion then on the rest of the grid. Jolicoeur now up past Quentin Laltram. And Vermac now up past Cecil as we get updates there from the grid. So, Quentin Laltram down in 12th. John Prine 13th. Clinton Bourne 14th. And Gabriel Gaudreau in 15th. Alex Albert looks to be out of today's race. So, let's get back on board then from all angles. The fight to first here between LeBay and Cassier. It's a spectacular show of force here from Chevrolet. 6.2 litres, 480 brake horsepower, 8 cylinders, but only one can win this race. 40.5 minutes will tell us different, but if this is the opening 20 minutes precedent of telling us what the rest of the race is going to look like, stay firmly strapped to your seats here. It's going to be one hell of a ride here in the Temple of Speed. What a start it has been, I must say. Truly remarkable. In the last lap there, 400ths faster than LeBay. That's all that slipstream equivalates to here. Once we're out, said and done through these corners, all 11 of them here at Monza. Still covering the inside. You've got to appreciate just how close these two are able to work against one another. They are perfectly in sync. Really, it is tough to tell then who comes out on top in this fight of first place. Right up to the back end. Is he even going to... I was about to say, with how close they're getting, is he even going to attempt to bump draft here? Surely that ends in disaster. Down towards De La Rogia we go. Trying to force LeBay to cover the inside. You can see tried for it, and he's still within his rights to try around the outside here at Lesmo. He is alongside LeBay, but he's going to have the long way around. We do have a yellow flag now for the number 36. Again, Alex Albert, and the 835 of Tyler Vermac appeared to be in trouble there. Out through Rettifilo. And that's back in the green flag conditions for the time being. We'll try and catch up with them once we know a conclusive end to this story here. 39 minutes then left to go in today's race. And these two are showing no signs of stopping. Cassier trying for the right-hand side here. He's front to rear quarter. A little bit of a scrape between the pair. Cassier's going to have to run it the long way around. He'll lose that position out past the exit of... Oh, it's very nearly a disastrous spin. Oh, my word. Remarkable car control between the pair of them. How have they not ended up in the barriers? Get a gander at that. Full slide. Four-wheel drifting by the Chevys. Unbelievable. Down through turn 11 we go. It is elbows out between these two. I think we may just have a moment's respite as Cassier eyes up the pit lane. Oh my word, I'm nearly out of breath there. I can only imagine what those two are going through. So, Richard Cecil's not going to be arguing with the recent proceedings of things, as Vermac was involved in an incident with the number 36 down at Variante Rettifilo, and Cecil has re-inherited the 7th position of this race. I really don't think he's going to be arguing with that. A bit of a P7 merchant, as it were, those who know. And number 5, then, having a wonderful time, then, as the solitary Alpine of this championship. Or, I suppose, non-championship race. I'm so used to competing for championships here, but more to follow, more to follow. Ear to the ground, and so on and so forth. We can see here, very close to one another, another of our titular cars, the Ginetta and the Porsche of Quentin Lultram and Bourne. Clinton Bourne is going to have the benefit of straight line speed over Clement Quentin Lultram's 511. Neither of them eyeing up a run into the pit lane. Now, bear in mind, for an hour-long race, we are expecting from now until about the 23-minute mark our bulk of our pit stops. Of course, with one mandated pit stop on the charts today, and very few of the drivers up front, bar Cassier, have had a suggestion of going into the pits so far, because he's still side-by-side here, Lultram versus Bourne, and a long way around, jumping over the curves. It's just full rallycross now between these two. I must say, it's an unorthodox line. It's a miracle neither of them got caught up in a larger incident. Fair play to them. Now inheriting the podium position after that early pit stop run then by Cassier is Anthony Villorio and the solo McLaren. He's had a relatively understated performance here in GT4, getting a gander at those previous wins again. He's picked up silverware up in GT3, but he's yet to see a front row finish, I believe, down in the GT4 category. The only other driver besides Christian Lebay to have taken the top step in GT4 single races was Giovanni Badiali in the number 998. Definitely a note to take home there. In that last lap, 200ths faster. So the margins between our top three are so unimaginably thin. 36 minutes then left to go. Timo De Tosto now up to 4th, inheriting 4th position there after the early pit stop run. We'll see where all of these drivers end up after their mandated pit stops. Like I say, we are now in that primary window. Now, we've seen plenty of unorthodox approaches to the single stop strategy here in a modicum of hour-long sprint races across multiple different seasons and multiple different series and multiple different leagues. We are still expectant of the bulk of it to have wrapped up in the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes here in Monza. See, Quain now in 2nd. It's a very familiar spot for him. He's been playing second fiddle here to Lebay's performances over the course of the last couple of GT4 rounds. I think that's just been out of choice of machinery here. It seems that nothing on this grid can match the Chevrolet piece for piece here. That Mercedes, don't get me wrong, is a strong machine, but right now it's quite utterly outmatched by Chevrolet. When you're talking straight line speed, look no further than the Americans. A little cheeky cut there. Now we're left to wonder what the track limits regs are here in Monza. We've seen leagues run it strict, run it loose. I don't necessarily know, we weren't privy to the information at the time, but surely on a line like that, you're likely to pick up a stop-go 30-second penalty. That's the worst case scenario for a lot of drivers today. I think the worst of it could probably end up in the pits there, speeding in the pit lane with such a short run out of turn 11. Do we see either Villorio? Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we do see Anthony Villorio making his way into the pit lane. See if we can catch him here on his run down pit road. So it's a very short run there from the exit of turn 11. I wouldn't be too surprised if someone picks up a speeding infraction here in Monza. See, Stay High is about to pass him up there on track, staying out for this lap of the race. 34 minutes left to go then. The second of our up the front pit stops. And speaking of, there's Axel Cassier down in 13th position, just having passed up Clinton Bourne's number 6 Porsche and the number 511 of Clement Quentin Lultram. So now, after those 2 pit stops we're seeing here, on the front row, Lebay and Quain, then Timo De Tosto in 3rd. Villorio's down a few positions now, Stay High, and Richard Cecil up positions, as too is Tyler Vermac and Andrew Veldkamp, Carl Martel, and Timothy Jolicoeur, and John Prine. So he'll be emerging behind, by the looks of it, Cassier as it stands. He is on his way out now. You can see the 301 is about to rendezvous with the number 41. So who comes out on top here? We can see the 301 is a little too close here, just before the pit outline. And off goes the number 301 there. The Chevrolet in the foreground. Axel Cassier now retakes an inherited position here. That'll eventually end up being on the front row. We can see in the background there. Let's just get a gander with those two. It was Bourne and Quentin Lultram. Elbows out between Porsche and Ginetta as ever. Now, these two have had quite a few spats in through this section of the track there. I very nearly thought they were going to spin each other out before they even made the corner there. That was a very sudden jut to the right for the 511 Ginetta, but he is trying absolutely everything with the odds stacked against him here to defend those positions. There comes a certain point here, and I'm sure he's privy to it, as to whether or not some of this ends up constitutes swerving. But right now, it doesn't seem that anyone is too upset with his antics in that Ginetta. He has done a remarkable job to try and hold his nerve here up against much faster machinery on paper. Now, that's not to say that Ginetta is outright a terrible choice in GT4. Far from, actually. It's one of the more pokey cars on that grid. You can see forcing him out wide. I think that was a little bit of a sign of remorse there from Quentin Lultram. But he's going to hold his position. If he wants Bourne to overtake him, he's got to earn that right. So out through Lesmo 2, then to the Curva del Saraglio. He has held on, and held on diligently in the 511. Clément Quentin Lultram, otherwise Quentin Lultram, competing from France. One of our only European entries, I should add as well. The other being Axel Cassier from Belgium. Now, side by side there, you can see Clinton Bourne. It's just night and day. It's the same story we saw with Mercedes. It's the same story we saw with Chevrolet. Ginetta just can't match them in a straight line. They can get him on the brakes. They can get him in the corners. But on a track like this, you're out of your element. Try as you may, the paper just doesn't show the Ginetta coming out on top in straight line speed. And I think taking note of that, in comes Clément Quentin Lultram and the number 511. Now having took their swath of pit stop runs as well, Christian Lebay and Kevin Quain. Now having come into the pits, Richard Cecil into the pits and Andrew Veldkamp joining. So this is the bulk of our pit stops now, is almost dead on at the halfway mark of today's race. You see that the grid slowly start to catch up there for data, as we see now Cassier having jumped Lebay in the pits. Now that is remarkable stuff. Cassier performing a perfect overcut or undercut. I'm not exactly sure. I see the term passed around so fruitlessly now that I tend to forget what it is. I believe that's an undercut. In goes Timo de Tosto then to the pit lane, number 58. Is Stay High, who's now in second place, going to be considering his options for a pit lane entry? Not on this lap, though. The 107 stays out and inherits the race lead. See another Mercedes here. The story of Gabriel Gaudreau in 15th position. He's already having taken his pit stop much earlier than his contemporaries on track. Another one on the Mercedes here, 616, Andrew Veldkamp.
We are at the halfway mark. Keep pushing.
Tyler Vermack looks to take second here off of Timo de Tosto. And that he does. You can see exiting the pits there. Clément Quentin Lultram in the 511. Alex Albert, we saw involved in a yellow flag incident earlier, is in 16th position and a ways down there. We thought he was out of this race, but fair play to Albert. He is back on track. The American will not be so easily swayed here with 29.5 minutes left to go. Carl Martel, another one of the Chevrolets here. Into the pit lane we go. There's a real mix-up now in the grid with plenty of drivers making their way to and from the pit lane. Now we're back on board with Christian Lebay. You can see the gap between himself and Cassier. These will be for those leading positions here in Monza. And Cassier has to cut the Variante Rettifilo. So that's going to bring the gap down a ways there from 2.5, as he's definitely stumped himself for momentum. 2.3, now 2.2, 2.1 as we make our way to the Curva Grande. So that could spell some imminent signs of doom here for Cassier. The pressure is going to start mounting on him as under 2 seconds now drops Christian Lebay further in to what's going to be the provisional fight for first place. Right now on track, it will be the fight for third. See into the pits as well. Timothy Jolicoeur celebrating his birthday today, currently in 11th. Just as he drops off. Brand new bodywork then, as you saw there, the scrapes over the front left fixed on that Chevrolet. John Prine up the field there as well, making his way out of the pit lane. Checking in with what is the now leading car this race, the 107 of Stay High, is staying out, so it seems there, with 28 minutes left to go. He is going extra long here for those pit stop strategies, and that seems to be a sentiment almost, yes, mimicked there by Tyler Vermack. The 835 stays out on this lap as well. So going for a bit of a long-winded overcut here. I finally figured out the difference, don't worry. Going for a long-winded overcut, Stay High and Tyler Vermack, but is it going to work? They're about half the track up the field right now. Is that far enough away from Cassier and LeBay, or is it going to be all for naught in the Chevrolet's return to the premier steps of this race? 27.5 minutes will tell us different then. We stay on board here with Christian LeBay, slowly re-entering the pursuit of Axel Cassier in the 301. These two shared a magnificent fight earlier on for the lead of this race. Now it's tipped on its head, as after a cunning pit strategy, Axel Cassier now leads that charge. See running wide there, Clinton Bourne just exiting the pit lane. As a matter of fact, we can see behind them Quain and Vilorio looking to get into a fight very, very shortly. About a second from one another there, Mercedes versus McLaren, for what is potentially eyeing up to be provisionally on the podium of today's race. Now we'll of course see where everything ends up landing once Stay High and Tyler Vermack come into their pit lane runs. They're the only two standing in the way here of a front row fight for the Chevys. And another chicane cut there for Clinton Bourne. Now, is that Porsche perhaps struggling to bed in those brand new Pirellis? We've seen it's not a particularly graceful re-entry for any manufacturer. Look no further than Axel Cassier, who had to cut Rettifilo on his outlap there. So the tyres, they're not easy to bed in on the GT4s. So I'm told as well that it's slightly easier than GT3 to within a certain extent. As a matter of fact, you can even sit in the pit lane and warm them up that way. But much lower pressures on these cars. And that can make them a little bit more unstable when they're brand new and fresh. Especially over the curbs. So the 107 is into the pits. We've just seen there a bit of an incident on Ascari for the number 6. That's Clinton Bourne. That could be a yellow flag. As a matter of fact, yes, it is. But he's quickly gotten that back going. So fair play to him. Side by side, Christian LeVay and Kevin Quain. Not Kevin Quain, sorry, Axel Cassier. What was that? I was reading down. I was supposed to be reading up. LeVay and Cassier then, my mistake, side by side. Quain about 3.8 seconds down the field there. Vilorio now about half a second and a half, actually, as a matter of fact, from him. It's side by side. The story of two Chevys now as they slowly gain back the lead they held. They're now up to the fight for what is second place, as now Tyler Vermack is the only driver left to have taken their pit stop up front. Let's see where things land in the fight between LeBay and Cassier. These two, they know a thing or two about close quarters fighting here. So now with it, the roles flipped on their heads, let's see what LeBay can do. Right now in that fight for second, LeBay up towards the inside and hugging it to the inside of the corner, then to the second half of De La Rosia. Cassier still holding on. If he can hold where he is on track, he'll be to the inside at the first of the two Lesmos. Where do we end up here as we enter turn 6? It's Cassier running it long. LeBay trying to run it underneath as we head to Lesmo 2. He'll be to the inside at turn 7. LeBay back to the inside. Are we seeing the proceedings of a double switchback? Potentially so, as now to front to rear quarter, the two Chevys still right with one another. Down the curva to Saraglio, onto the Variante Ascari. Who comes out on top here? The most tumultuous section of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Christian LeBay versus Axel Cassier for second. LeBay looks to forfeit around the outside. Goes Axel Cassier. Brilliant stuff. And we're not done yet. 24 minutes left to go. And we've still yet the run down towards turn 11. Still no news from a pit lane entry for the leading car at the moment. The 835 Mercedes of Tyler Vermack just about half the track up ahead of our two sparring Chevrolets for second place here. You can see a passive observer no more as Kevin Quain drops in under a second to the fight between the two Chevys. It could be a 3, make it nearly a 4-way fight, but LeBay with a switchback at turn 11 puts Cassier over the rear bumper of the 119. That'll be slipstream all the way down to turn 1. Who comes out on top then in this fight? We've seen it go any which way over the course of the last lap. Going for the outside earlier on the brakes was Axel Cassier. LeBay hugs it perfectly to the line there. Has a little bit of a run over at turn 2. But he's still held on to second. But for how much longer? You can see better of the two exits. Once again, Axel Cassier. Right behind him, Kevin Quain in the 607. Observer no more. That Mercedes could absolutely find his way into the fight here if things go sour. Down towards Della Rosia we go. Oh my god! What was that? Up on 2 wheels. That was Alex Albert. That completely caught me off guard. Oh my word. Are we doing stunt shows now here in Monza? Trust me, I'm trying to stay composed there, but what on earth was that? Up on 2 wheels. Oh my goodness, I'm at a complete loss for words. Gobsmacked would be one such that comes to mind. Christian LeBay then up to second, Cassier third, Quain fourth, Villorio fifth. Still no news of a pit lane entry from Vermack. The 835 currently making his way to the pit lane entry is not opting for a pit lane run here with 22 minutes to go. 0.7 of a second out there. Cassier is in trouble. It's a long, long way from second place now as he drops into third. But the real question is, with that spurious result from Tyler Vermack, who started at the back and is now leading this race, but with still a pit stop to serve, where by which does he re-enter this fight? Does he emerge in front of the Chevrolets? Does he emerge among them? Or does he emerge further back to fight with Quain and Villorio? With 21.5 minutes left to go then, it's any which way for the 835. As we've watched here with the fight with the 301 and the 119, it has been fantastic today in Monza. Up front of them, that was Albert, the man on 2 wheels in the 36 down at Della Rosia last lap. Now is slowly being reeled in here by Christian LeBay in the 119 Chevrolet. Having a look around the field, here's Timothy Jolicoeur down in 12th position at the moment, chasing John Prine in front of him on that red nose number 22 Chevrolet. Having a look around that field, Axel Cassier still in third place, but he's eerily close to losing that out to Kevin Quain. We will try and keep as close as we can to this top 5 here. We want to try and give everyone the due diligence of good coverage today. One such driver who, again, is just sneaking his way around the top 10 and doing so rather elegantly in the titular little Alpine. I must say, I did not expect Alpine to have such a solid stead here in Monza. And especially in the hands of Richard Cecil, he's done a very grand job here to go toe-to-toe with Mercedes and Chevrolet on what looked like a clear-cut dominant race. Villorio now a ways away from the top 3. Speaking of, here's Kevin Quain now right alongside Axel Cassier. Could he be trying for that position up to come and challenge Christian LeBay's lead? The 835 is still out on track at the moment. If we check to see, actually, he's still yet to have pitted. So this is a remarkably long-winded strategy by Tyler Vermack. One has to wonder what's going on inside the 835's mind at the moment. Right now, we're on with Kevin Quain, fighting for third place here, up against Axel Cassier. This would potentially be up to second. Now, I'm not 100% sure because we still yet to have sufficient understanding as to where Tyler Vermack will re-emerge. Right now, Quain looks to actually be in the iron sights of Vermack by the way it stands. If he was to pit this lap, I believe he may actually come out very close to Quain. But I must note as well, the gap between himself and LeBay is slowly shrinking. So it's now more so than ever the opportunity to come into the pits for Tyler Vermack. We're on board with Quain. Now sort of caught in limbo here. We saw him right with Axel Cassier's Chevrolet, but he's now been pushed out a ways to just under a second and just over a second away from Anthony Villorio behind him. It's one of the most awkward places for a driver to be because he's just too far away to capitalize on slipstream right now and just too far ahead to really have anyone to focus on fighting. So Quain's just got to knuckle down here and try his dearest to catch up with Cassier. Checking around the field here as we see that was Clinton Bourne in 15th. This is now Stay High. He was one of our longer running cars here for pit lane strategy. He re-emerges behind fellow Mercedes and fellow new signing for single race 6 Timo de Tosto. They're 6th and 7th in the 58 and the 107. The 835 is in. I will point this out. The 835 is in, I believe, just having dropped off of his jacks there. So I think our calculations were all askew. Vermack drops behind Quain, he drops behind Villorio, so it's all the way asunder for the 835. A little too late to say. So Cassier to second, LeBay to first, Quain to third, Villorio to fourth. Having a look then at what the greater impact is going to look like here for Tyler Vermack. As we wait to see, he has now confirmed a full mandated pit stop. It is on his way out. We can see entering the pit lane alongside him there. As he slowly makes his way out of the pits is Alex Albert in the 36. And he re-emerges there, potentially to lose out to Richard Cecil. There's the Alpine, chasing him down towards turn 1. Soaring on past goes the little A110. Up to 7th then goes Richard Cecil. Sand kicked up over turn 1 can only indicate one thing. Someone's in trouble. It was the number 6 of Clinton Bourne. We're watching here with Cecil in what is brewing to be that fight for 7th place, because there you can see emerging on new tyres is an enraged Tyler Vermack. The strategy's all gone askew. He's still inside the top 10 from starting at the back, so that is still a silver lining to every dark cloud here. But now he's tasted blood in the water and he's out for it, chasing down the number 5 Alpine of Richard Cecil. We'll catch up with these two in a moment's time here as we take a look around the field. Villorio caught by his lonesome here, just lapping Quentin Loltram in the 511. It was actually, dare I say, trying for a switchback on him. Quain a little too far away here to yet challenge Axel Cassier. As we check on that front row, we just quickly see it's 1 second between Cassier and LeBay, so that fight for the lead could yet still reignite. You can see it was only 200ths actually, 205 thousandths, the dividing factor between them two on the last lap just gone. So we're back on board with Cecil. This is in that fight for 7th position. We're on board with the only Alpine here in solo race 6. 1.8 litres versus 4. Who comes out on top then? Dieppe versus Sindelfingen. France versus Germany. And in for them drivers, America versus South Africa. Fun fact as well, the number 5, Tyler Vermack himself used to sport the number 5 before he moved over to the 835. And you can see it's clear cut in straight line speed, but pushing him all the way to the right-hand side of the track, trying to keep him over the white lines, but now running his way technically off track there. Tyler Vermack is using every available inch at his disposal. A little bit of rubbing there between himself and Richard Cecil on our way down towards turn 1 and 2. Very late on the brakes for the AMG. The Alpine still right with him over turns 1 and 2, but that looked clear cut there for Tyler Vermack. A bit risky to say the least. Closest comparator I could give you was those of you watching the World Endurance Championship, the Aston Martin Valkyrie's overtaken Sao Paulo. That saw a very similar move as that, all the way onto the grass, getting very elbows out. Very sketchy indeed, but he has got it nailed in. And fair play to him. Watching here from Cecil's perspective, very late on the brakes there, potentially caught up. Oh, and he is! He's caught up there by the careening number 6. He'll be furious with Clinton Bourne. Oh, that is a horrid, horrid, horrid sight to see. I imagine he was watching that play out in slow motion. The worst kind of domino effect. Clinton Bourne is definitely, much like Tyler Vermaat, going to find himself the centre of not exactly the best kind of press here at the end of today's race. Looking up front then, what's the story then between our two leading Chevrolets? And if we take a look here, the gap has opened from 1 second to 1.5. Christian Lebay is looking to nip this in the bud. Yellow flags are out as returning to the pits, the number 6 of Clinton Bourne. And that looks to be the end of the Porsche's time in the sun here at Monza. Watching then with Lebay, 13 minutes left to go. We're over 3/4 of an hour into what I must say has been a spectacular race to come along and commentate for. Very last second as well, we got the notification through that would you like to come along and commentate for this race as a gift to one of our drivers here celebrating their birthday. And since I'm already in town looking for some work with the Competizione Performance League, I thought, well, why not? It's going to be a fantastic opportunity to get to know the grid and get to know them. We have today. What a race we have been given the pleasure of seeing, and I think this stands as a precipice here for all other leagues. For anyone else watching these streams who runs other leagues, do not, and I say this with utter conviction, do not sleep on GT4 ever again. I'm tired of seeing leagues here not wanting to run GT4s because they're slower than GT3s and people don't have the right setups and no one really uses the GT4s. Watch a race like this and you tell me different, because you are seeing cinema unlike anything GT3 can give you on a regular basis. Maybe it's just the Monza nostalgist in me, or maybe it's GT4. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. Just take it as you will. GT4 has given us an absolute hell of a ride, and we just see here the first of our drive-thrus emerge, sadly, for what has been a remarkable underdog story of today. Richard Cecil's Alpine, first of the stewards' victim list. Number 5 then will have to come in and take a drive-through penalty before the end of the race. That could see him to the back of the top 10, if not outside of it, with Karl Martel 15 seconds away, Andrew Velkamp 17 seconds away from the Alpine. I must say, with every dark cloud does come a silver lining, because easily looking at a booking of the driver of the day spot in my mind here, Richard Cecil has taken a seemingly impossible set of odds in a car well out of its league. And much like a fellow underdog driver today, Clement Quentin Lautram, has absolutely astonished. Expectations on the table here. The expectations for Alpine were low. Don't get me wrong. Chevrolet has dominated this set of races, this category as it were. These single races have been all but dominated by one man, that being Christian Lebay behind the wheel of the trusty 119 Chevy. So for an Alpine to come along and strike at the heart of the top 10 amongst a sea of Mercs and a sea of Chevys and even the occasional, McLaren, that takes guts. In my books, that takes guts. Sadly, that appears to be the end of his run inside the top 10. John Prine is catching. Could he find his way in the 10th position here, with Cecil still rolling his way on through? I think it might be a little too late here for Prime, but he'll have a very good run compared to the Alpine. Getting up to speed is not in its bookings here. That's the same engine you'll find in a Renault Scenic. And I think that's remarkable in and of itself. That's a van engine there. Literally a van engine in the Alpine, and they've made it make upwards of 400 brake in a car that weighs about as much as a stack of photocopy paper. See, they're barging through. What was that? There's a barrier there. Checking in then with the front row, and that gap has opened up massively. Lebay has gotten himself very well clear of Cassier, who now looks to be slowly but surely backing himself up into the likes of Kevin Quain. There could yet still be a fight on the podium before the end of today's race, and if these two come together, it's to the benefit of Anthony Villorio in the number 41. 9.5 minutes then to the line. So just barely clinging to a top 10 there is Richard Cecil. We do see another drive-through penalty. It's for Clinton Bourne. The number 6 then picks up a drive-through penalty. That could spell even worse results for his race here. Could Alex Albert, despite his early tenure in the pits, potentially pick up a position gain by the end of today's race? It is still possible. We still have all 16 drivers that started today's race here. That's remarkable in and of itself for an hour-long race. We've just under 9 minutes to go then. Let's see how it plays out. Closest fight at the moment is going to be between second down to fourth, Cassier, Quain, and Vilorio. Timo de Tosto by his lonesome there at the back of the top five, as we see. That's the number 511. There's the number 58 on his way down the Curva de Saraglio. As we see here, Anthony Vilorio, number 41 McLaren, almost in equal distances there between second, third, and fourth, but that concertina will bring them right up against one another as we exit turn 11 on our run down towards turn 1 and 2 of the very antique Rettifilo. Chevrolet versus Mercedes versus McLaren. I did not think we'd see such variety inside the top 5, yet here I am astonished. Slowly reeling him in there. You can see that gap now having dropped down beneath a second. There is still yet a chance here for Vilorio to strike at Kevin Quain's position on track. Looking for a podium finish then. It's not going to be out of the rulings. We know what he can do up in GT3 here in the Competizione Performance League. What yet has the 570S not given us? Looking around the field, just to see where our next fight could be coming from. Now, keep a close eye on the man in the middle here, number 607, Kevin Quain. Looking for second there off of Axel Cassier, who has himself dropped a ways away from the now leading 119 of Christian Lebay. So he's lost his chances of a Grand Slam, but he's not lost his chance of a fifth race win in the single races. We just had a temporary yellow flag down the Curva de Saraglio. That was the 511 of Clermont Quentin Loltram in the Ginetta. Had a little bit of trouble in the exit of Lasmo 2. See if we can actually catch on board with the 511. Just out of curiosity to see what the status of affairs is looking like. And there's the Ginetta right behind him there. Gabriel Gaudreau chasing from half a second out. Now this is for 13th. Let's stay on board with the Ginetta. Down towards Parabolica we go. Now the Mercedes trying for the long way around, but there is clear damage on the nose there of Quentin Loltram's 511. Is he looking for a run into the pit lane then, or is he going to stay out? 5.5 minutes to go. He stays out. But now that's going to be generating excessive drag, especially with those loose catches there over the bonnet and front bumper. It's just going to create those little pockets of drag that's going to make him even slower in a straight line than his engine was already doing him favours for. And up past him goes Gabriel Gaudreau, but later on the brakes goes the Ginetta, so he still has yet an opportunity to take that position back, with Gaudreau potentially running over the emergency exit. There was the gap opening up and slamming the throttle shut. 3.7 litres let loose there. A little micro storm out of the 511. They don't call it the Cyclone engine for nothing. And out through the Curva Grande, he's retaken 13th. So you've got to hand it to him there. The Ginetta may not be the greatest machine for a track like this, but it is not down and out of every fight it picks. Now trying for the inside again. Gabriel Gaudreau. Can he find his second time's the charm here at Della Rosia? This time looks to be a lot more clear-cut than the last fight we saw at Rettifilo. That seems to be the end of the road here for Quentin Loltram. Catch up with these two later on. Clinton Bourne now having taken his drive-through penalty is back out on track in 15th position. That gap continues to open here, so we're seeing the extending end of a large-scale concertina effect between second, third, and fourth. We're just waiting now for if it's going to happen, the crunch time, where we start to see these drivers get closer and closer and closer to one another. Vilorio has not yet lost hope in the chances here of second place. It is still on the charts. What he needs to happen is he needs Quain to catch Cassier. They need to fight, and he needs to sweep on through. Oldest trick in the book here. Get two drivers to fight up ahead of you and reap the reward of their calamity. One driver who's not going to be arguing with where he's at on track, Timo de Tosto, still in a confident top 5. Quain has definitely got the world's weight on his shoulders here. Greater ambition yet lies ahead of him for second place in this race today, but he still looks to defend a podium finish. And as a frequent flyer of the top 3, he has a reputation to uphold in the top 3 positions of the single races down here in GT4, and he'll look to keep the ball rolling in what appears to be the proceedings of a weekly championship that CPL announced not too long ago. See here, stay high. He's definitely been one of the more interesting talks of today. An ambitious strategy much like that of Tyler Vermaak, who's 7 seconds away from him as the time of the recording, and finds himself in a very solid top 10 position, in 6th as a matter of fact. Not too shabby at all for his seeming first time here, as he was a very late sign-up. Like quite a few of the drivers I've spoken of, signed up only this morning. Quickly checking in then, we can see the 36. Now it's Alex Albert very close to John Prine and Timothy Jolicoeur themselves, looking to be sharing in a future fight here in the next couple of minutes. Right now, things seem to be winding down a touch, and leading that charge on what looks to be a 5th single race win in GT4 is Christian Lebay, but 2 minutes will tell us different here in Monza. Jolicoeur, who this broadcast was a gift for by his friends at the Competizione Performance League, having contacted me the other day, will still revel in the potential of a top 10 finish. Now, all he needs here is one more disaster for Richard Cecil. But even from where he's standing, it's an improvement over qualifying. Moreover, it has been a very solid race, one that has been difficult to pick up the pieces for in some cases, especially on those opening couple of laps for quite a few drivers. I believe Jolicoeur was actually one of himself caught up in there on those first couple of incidents. But he has done well against uncertain odds there to pull through. And that's something you really can't falter him for. He is a driver of ruthless commitment. I've very rarely ever seen Jolicoeur throw the towel in on these races in GT4. I don't think he's going to throw the towel in now. Just not how he rolls. Having a gander then, Cassier's broken free, and Quain and Vilorio look to be our next fight here, but with very slim amounts of time to make up for. So as we check around the field then, it's 0.8 of a second between Mercedes and McLaren's Quain and Vilorio. Could there be the makings of a last lap blast here, or are we just too far behind the mark for one more run around the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza? Here in single race 6, 40 seconds to go. I think from where we're standing, it could be wrapped up. Now, I don't want to speak too early on that, and I'd be gladly proven wrong. 30 seconds to go. I think we may just have one more in the bag here for Christian Lebay, the leading car. We check in with Vilorio and Quain. 0.2 of a second, 0.1. 19 seconds left to go. So yes, I think we are going to have one more lap here at Monza. Running super wide then, Kevin Quain, as Anthony Vilorio sweeps in like a vulture to take off 3rd position from him. He's so close now to the chances of a podium finish here in the 41. They're side by side, so one more lap to make or break the podium here. Mercedes versus McLaren. It seems all but wrapped up for Chevrolet. A 1-2 finish here in Monza looms yonder the horizon, but the story of that top 5 rests on the shoulders of these two drivers. Going for the inside, holding his nerve then from around the outside at turn 1 to the inside at turn 2 is Kevin Quain, but Anthony Vilorio has the better exit of the two, trying for the long way around town at the Curva Grande, carrying more momentum. This is what the McLaren can do in droves here, and tries for the wider of 2 lines on our way to Della Rosia, looking for the inside. He's got the momentum to spare. Later on the brakes he goes, but backs out of it, back to single file, trying to run Quain out of road, and nearly does so by the looks of it there. A big stab of oversteer puts him in better stead on our way to Lesmo 1. Vilorio then to the inside at Lesmo 1. Is Quain lining up a switch back here on the 41? The 41 parks it on the apex. The Mercedes sliding all manner of things around the outside. Down towards turn 7, running even further wide. I think that is just wrapped up there for the likes of Anthony Vilorio. What a last lap blast we've been given here. We've had gifts all the way throughout this race here with such pleasant battles as these. But this is a bloodied and brutal fight on all fronts for these two to reclaim third position. And Vilorio, waiting till the very, very last moments of today's race, looks to be the man to take it. But let's catch on board then with Christian Lebay. What needs there be said more than what has been an utterly dominant performance of today? The checkered flag does fly here as heading down out of turn 11 for his 5th race win here in the single races. Down in GT4, Christian Lebay, as we can pull the winner's sign up above there, has won here in Monza. And what a fight it has been on all fronts. Lebay wins in Monza, Cassier second, Vilorio on a triumphant third place final lap dash there ahead of Kevin Quain. Timo de Tosto in the top 5. Stay High is a ways away from the checkered flag here, 3.6 seconds ahead at the moment of Tyler Vermack. I don't see that position lineup changing for 6th and 7th there. What a race it has been, and I should remark as well, despite what appears to be was 10th at one point for Richard Cecil, he's now back up to 9th. Apologies on the graphics there. But again, it was something that we just had to sort of slap together off of the framework of the Sunday League gear that we use over on NLRL. We were more than happy to contribute towards today's round. But there, Christian Lebay, the winner here in Monza. Heading across the line then was Stay High and Tyler Vermack, 6th and 7th. Andrew Veldkamp not too far away. Then he's on the exit of Ascari. Richard Cecil and Timothy Jolicoeur to round out that top 10. So heading down to the line goes Andrew Veldkamp. He'll be for 8th position as it stands on the charts to our left there. We'll get a full update of them once everyone has crossed the line, and we'll give you a full rundown thereafter. The number 5 then to the line, Richard Cecil, maintains top 10s with Alpine. What a drive that's been for him there. The number 6 across the line, that was Clinton Bourne in 15th position. Number 69, Timothy Jolicoeur, happy birthday to him. And for his efforts, a top 10 finish. John Prine then to the line as well as Alex Albert. As we stay here with Christian Lebay. We do have yet one more driver to the line, and it's Carl Martel who's in the pit lane. So precariously still, we don't have a confirmed final finishing order, but that is as it stands on the left-hand side. We'll wait for the confirmation there, but what a race that has been for Christian Lebay. He did not have it as easy as expected coming into today's round. Make no mistake of that. It was one hard fought with a man now adorning 2nd place with the fastest lap as well. Axel Cassier put on one hell of a fight there for the lead of that race. Ultimately, it went back in favour of Lebay there, owing to some fantastic racecraft from the pair of them. Anthony Vilorio picks up a last second there, 3rd place. A remarkable little spat there between himself and Kevin Quain. That was war on all fronts in the final lap of the race for that move. Timo de Tosto had a fantastic race himself as well for that top 5 finish. He's making his way into the pits as we speak. What a fight, though, that has been. And there's your confirmed rundown. Lebay 1st, Cassier 2nd, Vilorio 3rd, Quain 4th, de Tosto 5th, High 6th, Vermack 7th, Veldkamp 8th, Cecil 9th, Jolicoeur 10th, Prine 11th, Quentin Loltram 12th, Goudreau 13th, Martel 14th, Bourne 15th, and Albert in 16th position. What a pleasure then it has been to bring to you the first ever televised Competizione Performance League single race. Now, we have yet to confirm 100% what our endeavours are with CPL, but there are good things to come, which is what I will say right now. We might see you, for those of you tuning in at home from the United Kingdom, we might see you very late at night, just to discuss a contract here, about 1 in the morning. Is about when we'd be going live for potentially some stuff here. Again, none of it's confirmed. That'll be about, what would that be, Eastern time? You're like, what, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time? Something like that. I'm not American or Canadian for that matter. Don't know the time. But what a race that has been. And a pleasant little surprise, I must say, for a race I was only given alert of in the last couple of days. But, you know, good things come in small packages. And this has been one hell of a race. These GT4s, make no mistake of it, cinematic from start to finish. Can I just observe as well, that monstrously large gap from 4th down to 8th there? Quain, Titosto, High, Vermac and Veldkamp, a swarm of Mercs in the top 10. Only Merc outside the top 10 at the end of this race was Gabriel Goudreau, and you could owe that potentially to the amount of problems he's found himself in down at turn 1. Obviously, lap 1 was one such incident as well. Driver of the day, I'd be remiss to tell you that it wouldn't be Cecil or Vermac. I'd say it's a joint between the pair of them, mostly off the fact this is the first I've ever seen of an Alpine coming onto the track. I think the last, actually, no, that's a lie. The last time I think I've seen an Alpine was when I was a co-commentator for Backmarker Racing. That was yonkers ago now. But it goes to show that plucky little Alpine can really do a number there. Being a top 10 amongst a crowd of Chevys, Mercs and McLarens is no small feat. In fact, it's the only other manufacturer to be in the top 10 right now in this race. I think a more obvious pick of driver of the day is Tyler Vermac, but he has definitely paved his way to 7th on a river of oil or blood, depends on who you ask. It was not a clean affair. And that's no criticism of Vermac's track credibility. He's a phenomenal driver. But it has not been an easy fight. There has been elbows out. There have been incidents, to put it nicely. And I'm sure the stewards will have a job I do not envy in dissecting those piece for piece. But what a drive it has been today by all involved. And what a pleasure it has been. Not often is it that I come to you from the middle of the day. Normally we're an evening broadcaster, and it has been quite pleasant indeed. So here's to more with the Competizione Performance League. And that's all from us here on TRTN for today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever it is you're tuning in from. I believe it's about 10, 11 in the morning Eastern Standard Time where most of our drivers are competing from. So have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll see you whenever we see you again. Good night or good day.